Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Android 17.
And today we are going to be looking at Mekkakonkrete. This is a chiptune fantasy RPG where you and your friends play as a squad of robots or mechas, exploring a medieval world full of peril and morally questionable inhabitants. This is from Novecento Manfredi, Zemo 2023. I got this from Ratty and Contatti. Look at that big logo on the back with them rats.
Great logo.
Look at that. Yeah, this is it's an interesting little zine. We meant to do this last time. I think we're still kind of transitioning out of our zine period back into, I don't want to bigger games and projects, but
also still sometimes zines.
Yeah, I mean zines are easy. It's supposed to be quick, even though it still takes us 2 hours. But yeah, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, I'm steady chilling, brother. How are you?
I am the same. I am also doing that.
Very cool.
Look at us. Yeah.
Strong opening.
Don't get a lot of new news to kick off. I guess we'll talk about stuff at the end. We got some side quests coming up. We got some other stuff coming up.
Right. But, I'm trying to think what a lot of the projects just wrapped. I know a few just launched as well. Yeah, there's stuff going on. There's things.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
There's things and stuff. We'll save that for another episode.
Yeah.
This will probably be a quick one. So let's just bust it out. Let's get one back on our belt. We missed one last week, and we'll get back in the groove here. So let's just hop right in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it. Mekkakonkrete, a chiptune fantasy RPG. So right off the bat, cover, there's art on it.
Yeah.
There's robots. Yeah. There's like cultists
and robots and
yeah, like laser beams punching holes in dudes and cloaks and stuff like that. It's a vibe. I really like it.
I like the robot with the like kind of traditional witch's cap, but also like a traditional axe, and then like a riot shield.
Yep. But like very, very robot. Like, so there's 3 kinds of robots in the game that we'll get to. Mekkas, but they're robots. And all 3 are here robots on the cover. And like we said, they're battling cultists. It looks like there's a big hole in the dungeon wall behind them. And there's like 4 cultists. One's getting blasted with a laser beam. One's getting blasted with like a shoulder missile. And there's 2 more, threatening with little daggers on these giant robots. So yeah, it's a vibe. I like it. I like the colors. The style's interesting. It's a
type of like cartoon. I'm trying to think of like something to compare it to give the listeners a better context. Comic book cartoony art. It's cool.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, so the author of the game writer, designer, illustrator, everything is all, as I said, I believe it's Novecento Manfredi. They did everything, it seems. Yeah.
And there's a respectable amount of art in this, which I just imagine like writing this, doing the layout and the art. It's just like, that's a lot of time and there's a lot of like page art and yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, I mean, it's gotta be nice to be able to do all the art for your own game. So, I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit off stream. I do dig the art. I think the style is a little cartoony for my taste, but it's good for what it is.
I agree. I feel the same way. It is good. But it's not what. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we got an index here. We also have no hyperlinks. It's not bookmarked at all, but it's only like 23 pages. It's a pretty small zine. It's not a big deal. It does have that nice Hinakoto human-made logo on it, because fuck AI. Even the fact that we call it AI is so dumb. But yeah, CCBY, like this is it's open to hack. It is all Creative Commons, and you can find Mekkakonkrete and more stuff at novecentomanfredi.wordpress.com or at the novecento.itch.io. That's novecento.itch.io. I know there is more Mekkakonkrete. There is like a couple of adventures that are out and things like that, so that's cool. But yeah, index wise, we get an introduction, character creation, like the accessories that go with robots, combat, enemies, a little bit of lore, stuff. Yeah, and a character sheet, and that's about
character
it.
Sheet's pretty good.
Yeah, I do like the character sheet. So getting to the first page, we'll hop in with some. What are your thoughts before we get in here? One line.
What about yours?
Yeah, I do like this game. This is going to be an interesting one to go over because I do really enjoy it. And clearly, you know, some like they did the art, they did the writing, They did design, they did everything, which is awesome to be able to put out the zine all by yourself. I'm still incapable since I can't finish one fucking thing.
Same.
But I feel like it would have been nice to have like one other person, maybe like an editor. Yeah.
Yeah. I get a better line. A lot of dice. You know, that's my line. A lot of dice.
So, kicking off on the very first page, it is what is Mekkakonkrete. I'll run through this real quick. It's interesting that all of this is on one page, and we'll talk about why at the end. So, what is Mekkakonkrete? It is a rules-light TTRPG where you and your friends are robots or mechas in a medieval world.
Did you say robots?
Robots. I know it's robots. That's not how I really say it. You and your mecha companions will make your way into ancient castles, cursed dungeons, and haunted villages. There, you will face countless wretched creatures, cultists, and zealots to confiscate their silver pieces, seize their artifacts, and perform many other missions on behalf of the Processor Mothership. The savage creatures that inhabit this world never stood a chance. For the eternal glory of the Processor, fight until you are scrap. It's interesting. I really like the intro thing here. I do feel like some of the vibes I wanted a little bit more later. We'll get to that. There's a bit of a, you know, I think throughout we'll talk about some of the things. I think Undercooked, I think is a good thing for this. I think this game is really cool. It's got good bones. But I think some of the writing would have been enhanced with an editor. I think the layout could have been enhanced a little bit. There's some weird, like, even on this first page, like Processor Mothership is dropped down a line when it's like should be up a line. You know what I mean? Like it's skipped down one, things like that.
You said this pre-stream, but as we get into this, I kind of am thinking about this as well. Like this, I think a 2E of this would bang. You know?
Yeah.
Like I'm really interested in like playing as a fucking robot in a fantasy setting. Like I think that sounds potentially hysterical, and like the hijinks that you and your crew could get into by just not being humans in a world of only humans, and classic fantasy. Yeah,
it's definitely interesting. Like I said, I really like the bones. I really like what they're going for, but I do feel like, you know, as we get into this, like I said, the layout could be a little bit. I think everything could just be a little bit better. And I think having maybe like an editor, a dev editor, and a 2E of this, it would really go off. But for example, like the how to play section is the next part of like the first page of this, and it's like the core rules of the game in like the bottom half of an intro with like there's no bullet points, there's no dashing, there's no separation. It's just like this kind of giant blob of text here, without like really highlighting anything specific, without spacing it out at all. Like it just, since this is basically the game, I would have made this, if you wanted it all like this, give yourself a whole page, you know, for this, instead of like sticking it on the bottom half of this page with like no delineations with space, like I said, spacing, bullet points, separations for different parts, like anything. But yeah, most of the core rules are right here on the bottom half of this page. So we'll go through this a bunch and skip around to the other parts. So Mekkakonkrete, super simple. You need a bunch of friends, and it says some 6-sided dice. You will learn just how many some is in just a bit. The character sheet, blah blah blah. So in Mekkakonkrete, you when you attempt an action or task, you roll a number of d6s. This is another, I don't know if you noticed it. This is called a roll check. That is one part where I was like, oh my god, please don't do that. That's 2 words that mean the same thing together, and it's extremely confusing later. Like, it's just unnecessary. It could be a roll or a check. There's no reason.
No, I need you to roll your roll check right now, buddy.
it's so, my gosh, unnecessary. Please just pick one. It's like calling it a test roll check. You know what I mean? Like, there's just, like, you don't need to. Like, just call it a roll or call it a check. You don't need roll check. It's unnecessary. If you roll a 1 or 2 or 3, you fail. If you roll a 4 or 5 or a 6, you pass. If the game master decides you scored enough successes, you succeed. That's a core mechanic. It's like a lot of dice pool systems out there, but without the kind of like 1, 2, fail, 3, 4, succeed with consequence, 5, 6, success kind of. There's no mixed success in this dice pool system like Lumen or any of those other games like that. It's a pass fail system, and you have to have a number of successes, which is 4, 5, or 6, in order to pass. So if the DM says that takes 3 successes, you roll dice and you hope to get above a 4 or above 3 times, and you succeed. That's it. Otherwise, you fail. That's it. That's the game.
I like dice pools, and I like D6 dice pools, and I'm totally okay with it being pass fail and not necessarily like a partial failure or partial success mechanic. So I like that part.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the other thing that you could always do too is have like a level of quote unquote mixed success just within the fiction. Like, if you needed 4 and you only got 3, you could always tell the player, like, you kind of, what I mean? Just like into the narrative, you didn't fail miserably. So you could always add that in, which I encourage everyone to do in any system that doesn't have mixed success built in. Like, close is close, The number of dice you have to roll in a roll check is often equal to the number of one of your characteristics. Each character has 3 characteristics: strength, dex, and wit. Each task will require a different characteristic. For example, smashing a door will require a strength roll check. Moving stealthily. That's not a word. In a surveilled area will require a dexterity roll check. Convincing a city guard of your innocence will require a wits roll check. This is almost all you need to know to play Mekkakonkrete. Wait, no, first you need a character to play. Turn the page and let's make one. There's a lot of exclamation points in this. I don't mind any of this. I just think that the roll check thing, please pick one. And again...
that takes away a lot of the... I'm like, I like the excitement. I like the writer voice. Like, but yeah, roll check, that's kind of...
A strength roll check.
Not working for me.
A dex roll check. Like, it's just it's unnecessary to have 2 things that both mean the same thing. But also, again, like, this is the page that has the core mechanics of the entire game on it. I would really like it laid out in a way that just makes a little bit more sense, and it wasn't just like a spot. Because the other thing too is, like, honestly, I know there's a big bar that says how to play with the red thing, but it's not hard to miss when you go, like, what is a Mekkakonkrete? If you just quick flip to the next page, you're going to be completely fucking lost.
I did. The first time I went through this, when you and I first, we talked about like 2 days ago or something, where you like, have you read it? And I've skimmed it, and you started talking about the resolution mechanic. I was like, oh, I totally missed that part. Like, it's there, but when you're skimming through, it would be nice to see it laid out. And there's not a lot of rules. It's incredibly lightweight. But I feel like at this point, there's enough examples of zines that have like lightweight frameworks that are very clean, and some dude just made in their spare time, Yeah.
It's just, again, like a little bit of a like a re-layout would be really nice on this.
Yeah.
Like they said, that's it. And then you go to character creation. there's 3 different frames.
Right.
So the other thing too that is interesting about this is like there's just a lot of words for things. So it's mecha, not robot, and your mecha has a frame, so you have a mecha frame for your robot. But all of those words are used throughout the thing too. But regardless, each mecha has a different mecha frame. This will determine your size, armor, hit points, speed, ammo, and grant you a characteristic bonus. There's 3 types of frames. They're all so there's the Hulk, which is the big boy. There's the Agile, which is the speedy boy, and there's a Smarty, which is the smart one, right? But they're all kind of balanced a little bit across the attributes. So like, for example, the Hulk is large with an armor 4. It's got an HP of 1d6 plus 4, speed of 6 feet per turn. We'll get to the feet thing because the movement makes 0 sense. Ammo capacity is 3d6 plus 3 per rest. And then the characteristic bonus is +1 at strength. Just like the Agile one gets a +1 at Dex, just like the Smarty gets a +1 at Wits. I like that. It's neat. Agile seems like the kind of all-around one. You get 9 feet per turn. The armor is 3. You get 1d6 plus 2 per level HP, 2d6 plus 2 per rest, ammo capacity. And then the Smarty has only 2 HP, 1d6 plus 1 per level HP, but you get 4d6 plus 3 per rest ammo capacity. So it's small. It's definitely a glass cannon, but it has more ammo than all the rest of them, which cracked me up. I was like, I really like that. That really gets me that the smallest, littlest guy has the most. So it kind of balances it out. And like that, for example, ammo capacity, Hulk has 3, Agile has 2d6 plus 2, Smarty has 4d6 plus 3. You know, one is 1d6 plus 4, one is 1d6 plus 2, one is 1d6 plus 1 HP. So I feel like they all balance each other out really well. Like you could play with different styles. The characteristic bonus doesn't really seem like it adds a whole lot when we get to the next section.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so zoned in on the movement because I'm remembering that movement, and this is very interesting.
Yeah, it makes literally 0 sense, and we'll get to why in a second. But you can kind of understand why anyone listening that's played a game before. One can move 6 feet, one can move 9 feet, and one can move 7 feet. What grid are you playing on?
Yeah.
And if you're not playing on a grid,
wait till we get to combat, you know? Yeah, how close you have to be to hit somebody?
Yeah, we'll get there. So setting scores, this is the next part of why like having a +1 to strength for a Hulk really doesn't do anything, because here you set your scores, right? After choosing a frame and registering its diagnostics on your character sheet. So the other thing is like at no point on the previous page does it mention the word diagnostics. Like it doesn't say like you're setting your diagnostics or anything like that. Right. It says setting scores.
Just dropped it right here.
Register diagnostics. Just talk about diagnostics on the previous page. And I enjoy this game. I know we're kind of being critical, but it's because we like it and we're just like, you know, being constructive. So after choosing a frame and registering diagnostics on a character sheet, you will need to set your characteristics. You will have to distribute 7 points in your characteristics across strength, dex, and wits. My other problem throughout the entire book too with the layout is they do this a lot, like at the top of setting scores, where they'll have 2 separate points of like here's the thing and then here's the next thing I want to talk about, but there's no indentation, there's no dashes,
there's not enough break. You mean between characteristics and the next word, like line down?
Yes. Yeah. So like between when we get to the lore and its paragraphs, it'll literally be like 2 lines and then there's the next idea, and instead of having like a paragraph indent or any separation, it just starts another one. So it's almost like there's no break, but suddenly there's like an empty line. It's just a thing that you could tweak with if you want to do bullet points, if you want to do indent, I mean anything to separate it a little bit. But you get 7 points across strength, dex, and wits, right? There's no minimum. There's no minimum and no maximum.
Yeah.
And then you add the frame characteristics bonus, which is +1. You're already getting 7 points. Like the thing that I think would make a Hulk different than a Smarty, you know, ammo capacity and stuff like that. But like if it's supposed to be stronger, I feel like it would be better to put not 7 mysterious points out there.
Yeah.
But like an overabundance of points more in character creation. So like, let me finish this. So it
like
says
only so finish this and we'll do the thing.
Yeah. So the example is you could give 2 to strength, 4 to dex, and 1 to wits. And if you pick the agile frame, you would have 2 to strength, 5 to dex, and 1 to wits. The difference between those two is so slim, it's insane. Because rolling 4d6 and 5d6 at that point, especially when you roll like another 5d6 for the flamer weapon, like that doesn't make the agile feel agile now. Like having a 1 point separation of the things.
It makes a very incredibly small statistical difference in rolling dice pools. Like, yeah, adding that 1 when you're already rolling, potentially you're rolling 10 altogether. So the 1 is like, okay.
So, I mean, realistically, a couple of ways we could talk about balancing this already early is 1, 7 points off the rip to start the game seems insane to me versus maybe like 3.
What is more insane is that there is no minimum. So you could just put, right now, your character would kind of suck, but you could put a 0 in wits and 1 in strength and then 6 in dex. And then if you're rolling a dex weapon that is like a +5, which we'll get to weapons, but they have a number of dice that you roll right there. That's 11. Or if you dump everything, maybe you're rolling 12 dice, like out of the gate.
Off the rip, 12 dice.
Which is just a lot of dice to roll.
Well, the crazy thing is there's no, party balance doesn't have to be a thing, right? But like,
totally.
You're also, you still want to keep like a somewhat of an eye on like early mission stuff. If you have 2 characters that are like balanced across and 1 character that stacked like freaking 12 dice into like 1 stat, they're gonna, and especially if you put it into something that's going to be like their melee, they're never gonna miss ever.
Yeah, so, it's going to wipe everything all the time.
That's the thing is like, you're not going to have combat like that. It's just, I don't agree in like balance, like in counterbalance in like, I have to make sure that like the players like almost win in like the 5e, like as long as they have fun, like it's fine, I can fudge my rolls and I'll balance it, like blah, blah, blah. But balance within the party in order to like, if there was 1 dude in my party that was just like, all right, I got it, and hit every fucking time to the point where I didn't get to do anything, that wouldn't be fun. You know what I mean? That's the kind of balance that I'm talking about.
I see your point. And but I don't even take issue with that. Because I've run some weird tables in the past year or so that have been a lot of fun, and they've really gone very non-traditional shit. But if I had a party, like one of the tables that I run, and they were a bunch of little freaks, and they were like, yeah, this one guy's going to put everything in strength, and he's just going to be the bulldozer, and that's what he's going to do. Like, I take no issue with that. My issue is, it's too many. 12 dice is too many dice. That's also the number of dice that you're rolling. Like, I have a dice pool system. Like, I love dice pool systems, but like a big critique of a lot of them, like including like Shadowrun and stuff, is like you just end up rolling like 12 or 15 dice. You're just like, God, so many. And for this one, we're going to get to combat, but you roll those dice to do a thing, to attack, but then you roll other dice to do damage as well. It's just a lot.
Well, and that's just starting. That even if you put 1, if you're agile and you even put 1 in wit, so you get 1 dice to roll, and 1 in strength, that means you literally start with 6 dice in dex.
Yeah. I think to your earlier point, like maybe they start with 1 in everything, they get 2 points to assign, and they get 2 or 3 points from their character class. That makes it feel like those character classes a lot more meaningful. Now I think you would build like the Smarty in a certain way because it has so few hit points. Like you kind of are going to build it in a certain way. So yeah, I do think there could be a better experience for like the difference in the frames, not character classes, frames.
Yeah, even if you let's just say for the sake of argument to keep also 7 such a random fucking number. So I assume it's just like 8 total because you get a thing. Why do you need 8 points to start?
I don't know. I don't have the I was running dice pool math for a while on something, and I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't any dice.
Well, my thing is like, if you even want to start with like 8 like that, just have Smarties start with like 3 or 4. Like give each one like a +3 or 4, and then allow them to just assign another 3 or 4, vice versa, like to the other stat. So at most, they could be equivalent in another stat to their best stat. It's just like, what's the point of giving them a bonus if at the end of the day the bonus doesn't really matter? So you could pick Smarty because of the ammo capacity and just throw everything you want into like strength or whatever. Like it's just, I mean, of course you can, but like again, like you can do whatever you want. It's a game, but like it's just, to me, it's kind of bad math. Like to not, it's kind of pointless to give a bonus when the bonus doesn't mean anything, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll stop picking on that part for like 2 seconds. So we'll get into the other part, which we'll pick on some more. So pick your arms and accessories. You get arms and accessories. We'll go over them in a minute. And you have a total of 100 silver to spend. I do like the silver buy at the beginning.
It's so fucking funny that it's a silver based game. Like genuinely, the part about this where you're like a fucking robot in a fantasy setting and like you're using the silver economy and you're using silver to level up. Hysterical. So much fun. I would definitely love to do that. And I could see that being a fun thing to do. Maybe even for not a campaign, but like a regular game. Like, yeah, you guys are just robots in like having hijinks in classic fantasy. I love that.
Yeah. Well, even the reason that they need the silver too, like basically, and even when it gets to the economics and stuff at the end, which I really enjoy, like a lot of like the thought they put into it. Again, it's just some of the writing is. So arms, you get 2.
Right.
You get 2 arms.
It's a good number of arms to have. Almost everyone has 2 arms.
Yep. Almost. And in this game, you get your robots your mechas are bipedal humanoid things, you know. So each mecha has a weapon arm and a prehensile arm. Alternatively, a mecha can have 2 prehensile arms and a weapon arm. However, a mecha can never have 2 weapon arms. Trust the processor. It is better this way. I like that. I love the idea of like, because I fucking said so, and here's a little bit of an in-game lore reason. I love that. So as it said, you can have 2 prehensile arms. You can have a weapon arm and a prehensile arm, but you can't have 2 weapon arms. So you can start the game with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 different weapon arms: Blaster Y or Blastery, Crusher, Flamer, Gatling, Meganide, Zero Blade, Zero Phaser. There's no explanation of what they do. Yeah. There's a couple pictures. The trusty Meganide, I love that it's called that because it looks like the Mega Man fist, which I love. The Almighty Crusher is a big fist, and I dig that. So let's get into more dice. Weapon arms. These are fierce, weaponized arms. All weapons consume 1 ammo to perform an attack. So you're literally going to get to a point because of ammo capacity where you run out of being able to use your weapon arms. But for example, let's do a strength one first. So there's the Crushery, right? The Crusher. It's a melee weapon. So roll to hit. It says 2+ strength. When I first read that, I was like, what's the 2? I don't understand. Like, I had to go back and read.
It didn't say 2 dice?
I mean, eventually, I think.
It does. Oh, yeah. It gets later on in combat, it does say that. Yes, it should absolutely preface. It's one of those things we've talked about often about mentioning a thing before, you know, so that people have like already know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's like. This is one of those things where it feels like the creator knew what it was and forgot that the players don't. So I'm just like, what the fuck? What 2 am I doing? And it's a roll to hit, but it's also like, what about the roll check? A roll check to hit? Like, where did the roll check go? But now it's just roll. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. So it's 2+ strength, right? So if you have 2 strength, right, you get to roll now 2 plus your 2 strength, so that's 4 d6s to try to hit a thing. Don't know what to hit yet. That's not explained till later. And then damage is another 2d6 after that. So if you wanted to, you could have dice of different colors and roll it all on one giant thing. But who the fuck is going to have 20 guys? I mean, we talked about you start with like potentially 6 dice in one thing. This is a fun one.
I was gonna say, so because I obviously run like a dice pool thing, like I have a big thing of dice, but yeah, like you kind of need that to run this. And like personally, 6 dice, that is on the like not high end, but getting up to the high end of how many dice I would ever want to roll at any point in time for one thing. And then we are like talking about a stat of 2, a weapon of 2, and a damage of 2. Like it's fairly low for this, like where you can go in the system.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing too is, I mean, if you're rolling like 10d6s, slowing down to have to like, first of all, contain 10d6s, because you're not throwing 10d6s into a little board. Like, how many dice are going to be flying all over the place? Plus, also, even just stopping to count 10d6 to just be like, all right, that's a success, fail, success, success, fail, success. Every time you roll anything, you're like literally counting 10, 15, 20 different dice to do all your things. It's just too much dice. But that's not even, so that was 2 is the lowest it goes. So let's talk about the flamer, the ranged weapon. 5+ dex, and with our character we kind of made before with 6 dex. That means if you buy the flamer for 80 silver to roll to hit, you are at first level right off the bat rolling 11 d6s plus 2d6 for damage.
Yeah,
you're rolling 13 dice on one turn. It's just a lot. It's just too much. Again, you can balance this whole thing down by just dropping all of this. Like,
absolutely.
Just cut the dice in half.
It'd be so easy to trim this down. And like, I mean, a lot of it too is the like to hit on the enemies. Like they get fairly high, and like you just cut them. You know, just cut all of it down. Lower up, make all the numbers lower. You know,
instead of starting with 8 points, just start with 4 and cut all of the shit in half.
Small numbers, better big numbers. You know.
Yeah. What you could easily drop. Roll to hit for the crusher instead of 1+ strength or 2+ strength, just do 1+ strength. Drop the Gatling from 4+ dex to 2+ dex. Just cut all the numbers in half. And less dice, roughly the same numbers. Anyway, so enough beating up on those weapon arms. They're cool. They have a name, a type, which is just ranged and melee, which is not explained yet. Rolls to hit, damage, which is between 2 and 46, cost, which is between 40 and 80 silver. Those are weapons. Then you get to, but they're cool. That's the thing. The whole thing is just this. It's
they are pretty cool. So I'm like, I mean, and not to keep harping on like my imagination being like, oh yeah, the fantasy world I'm walking through with like the robot with the fucking what's the Ultima, the Ultima hand, just like slapping through stuff, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that'd be dope. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it would be sick. It would be a lot of fun.
So the prehensile arms are pretty much what you use when you run out of ammo, which I love the fact that you run out of ammo. And then with your prehensile arm, it says they can also be used to wield weapons. Yes, even ones made by humans. I love that. So you get a bunch here. Claw, fireproof hand, 5-fingered hand, long-fingered hand, 7-fingered hand, spiked hand, tool hand, Ultima hand. There's no descriptions of any of these, and I love that. I really enjoy that part that it's so the bottom here it says the edgy zero blade or the shocking Ultima hand. Like, it doesn't say that anywhere. Make this shit up. That's cool. Like, I love that part of like not putting that much into it. That's a good, you know, not having it in.
I mean, it kind of goes back to, you know, we've talked a lot recently, and especially I think when we were playing Greenhorns as well, about items like they have no description. Like you guys decide right now, what does this item do, and that's what it does. And it's kind of like, this is not exactly that, but it kind of figures like what is your Ultima hand? You know how much damage it does, but like, is it like the shocking one? Because mine's not. Mine is literally like it's the rocket backhand, you know. So yeah.
I dig that. I mean, it's exactly like you said, exactly like Greenhorns. It's great. I mean, what the fuck does a 7-fingered hand do? I mean, I would tell you.
But it has 7 fingers. I know that.
Yeah. But these are all roll to hits these are all strength, which is interesting that there's not a single dex one. I really wish there was like a whip one or something, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
You know, but
Ninja throwing star one.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, so it says you wield human weapons, like where does the damage and stuff come on when you're wielding human weapons? Like, we need to, like, we'll have to, because like if I have the 5-fingered hand, 1+ strength, 1d6, that's for the punch, because it says each prehensile arm can also be used to throw a punch attack, which I assume is this base right here. Like if I'm wielding like an axe, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get to it, but I don't remember there being like a whole
I
weapons
don't
list.
remember there being one either. And like, for me personally, I guess it's who your game is for. Because for me personally, I'm fine to like, I would figure it out, right?
Right.
I don't know. I think even in this case, you should be like, there should be a blurb in here that's just like, hey, using a human weapon, here's some examples. But like, or no examples, and like talk to your party and decide what would make the most sense for what that weapon would do in terms of damage,
I mean, easiest peasiest, one-handed, 1d6, two-handed, 2d6.
Totally.
Range, 1d6, done. But that's not in here. Next, we're getting into accessories. This is where the versatility shines. So you can have up to 5 accessories. So again, you only start with 100 silver. So it's not like you can make the greatest thing ever to start, but you could easily spend 80 silver on the 5+ dex flamer, 10 silver on the 5-fingered hand, and still have enough to get a headlight, pretty much just a headlight, but you'd be insane. But so anyway, accessories. You got antenna, ballistic shield, better hydraulics, coated metal, coaxial cables, headlight, laser pointer, metal finder, propulsor, shock absorber, sidearm, which is a third arm. That was my nickname in high school. Smokescreen salvo, voice modulator. But just like looking at one of them. So ballistic shield, for example, add this shield to a prehensile arm. You can use this tower shield to block incoming attacks. You gain +2 armor. God, it took me forever to figure out where the fuck armor was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me go back.
Oh, it's not back. That's the thing.
Oh, well, I mean, it does tell you on each character class what your armor is.
Yeah, but what?
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't say it that
is it
there.
Soak?
But...
Is it? Yeah. So, yeah, so they do different things. So a laser pointer is attached to one of your weapons and synced with internal parts. Add +1 more die to the dice pool of the roll to hit of one of your weapons. I like that. More dice, though. You start with the laser pointer, that's another dice. So, but a lot of them do propulsor up to 3+ dex feet high, like, a lot of stuff. The shock absorbers, voice modulators, they're all really cool. That's the thing, is they're all really, really cool.
They are very cool.
I like the build your mecha bits. Like, it cracks me up. It's really enjoyable. There's now there's a whole equipment section too. So after you pick your arms and accessories, there's other stuff. You do start with free equipment. So you start with basically a Dungeoneer's pack. You get 10 flasks of oil, 5 feet of rope. 5 feet of rope is a crazy. That's nothing.
All of the like the feet in here. There has to be some conversion issue or something, because like, once again, we're going to get to attacking, but I'm going to say it now. You have to be 1 foot from your attacker. You have to be
1 foot.
1 foot. You'd be
yeah. And what does a 5-foot rope do for you? With 5 feet of rope, you could barely tie that around your own waist. You know what I mean? It's crazy. A repairing wrench, a backpack, 2 flasks of anti-rust, and a torch lighter. And this is like the first time where anything has been broken up with like dashes and stuff. But even then, one of the flask of anti-rust is like pushed in by one. But then there's extra equipment, which is just like basic shit. Bags of herbs, bottles of ink, human clothes. That's fine. It's fine. I do like that there's just like randomly just like human shit in here.
There is human weapons right here.
Oh, perfect. Good. I'm glad. That makes me feel good.
I totally messed up the first time I went through it. Whoops.
Yeah. I think I got to where I was like, okay, fine. Okay, sometimes mech weapons run out of ammo. So, yeah. So here's the problem, though. Like, right? So you have battle axe, cooking pan. I love that. Long sword, short sword, spear. And guess what they did? 1d6 and 2d6. Good call. That's what I would have done. Already said that. And even the roll to hits are 2 or 1. And they're all strength or dex, right? Oh, well, spear is dex. Everything else is strength.
Everything else is strength, yeah.
But, like, would you stack this with the prehensile arm that you use it with, or is that only the punch?
Are you asking me as a game master what call I would make?
Or either both, like what you think the intent was?
It doesn't say in here. And I think that might be a mistake. I think at my table I would call that no, those things do not stack, because that's all. We're already too deep in these fucking dice, my friend. You know? Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at the stats on the prehensile arms, they most of them, except for the Ultima hand, are like 1, 2, or 3. And like, it's not like with a claw you can hold a weapon anyway. So they're almost all 1 or 2. So to think that your weapon would do 1 or 2 as well, when the weapon arms do 2, 3, 4, yeah.
Well, the claw can wield a weapon.
I guess your claw could wield a weapon. My claw would be like a whole
the rules
claw.
are stated that a prehensile arm can wield a weapon. You know,
right? If I'm just saying, like in my fiction, claw to me is the whole thing is a claw and an unwieldable. It also has higher strength than a lot of the other ones, but and a higher damage than some. But yes, your claw could wield a weapon as well. But like, yeah, that's interesting that there should be a differentiation that says like if you're wielding a weapon, you use weapon stats, not prehensile arm stats. Yeah. But I mean, also that wouldn't make sense too, because like if I'm wielding a battle axe with a 5-fingered hand versus an Ultima hand, why wouldn't my Ultima hand hit harder with the battle axe?
So going back to the prehensile arm section, it actually says each prehensile arm can also be used to throw a punch attack. So I think the default is they're actually wielding a weapon, but they can also be used to throw a punch. I think maybe if the weapon damage was moved up to the same area and it was reworded and edited a little bit, I think it might be more apparent. But I do think you're meant to wield a weapon in that hand or just have something in there, but also it throws a punch. This, like presentation wise, right, with this table here, like, and laid out how it is, you automatically assume, oh, that the prehensile arm is a weapon, but it's as it's written. It's talking about using it to hold things or a weapon. I wouldn't have put the. Go ahead.
I disagree. I think the thing right before the table says each prehensile arm can also be used to throw a punch attack, and my assumption is this table is the punch attack.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Then we agree. Yeah. But like, so you're saying that this table goes away as soon as you're wielding a weapon and you're just using weapon.
Yes.
Yeah. I wouldn't disagree with that.
I think the layout works against that. You know, like yes. I think technically it is written as such to lead you in that direction. But I don't think the layout does it any favors.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would move the human weapons right up under that. Why separate it? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so adding more cool stuff. So everything you need. The details, again, there's the whole sections here where there's like lines that are like not broken apart and stuff like that, whatever. There is a motivation table. I love that this is here. What brought your mecha here? Why did it join this mission? Why don't you get out a D6 and we'll do a bunch
Hell
of these.
Yeah, brother.
Well, if you bring up a D6 roller too, we'll do some test rolls later too.
We'll do Google's dice roller, which I always love to use because it's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm rolling D6.
So, yep, D6 for your motivation.
5.
To retrieve and study human artifacts. That's cool.
Nice.
That's cool.
Very cool.
I love the "you are on love" ... with a human ! Question mark. Those are cool. To avenge a fallen mech, to find mech gone rogue, etc. D6. D6 trinkets. What you get?
I got 6. A rusty key.
Dope. Yeah.
Just got a little rusty key.
A weird fear. What you got?
I rolled 4. Fear of rusted objects.
Makes sense.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Fear of love and what it did to you. Fear of humans that talk really slow. I mean, these are cool. I love these little tables. There's like such fun little flavor bits to them.
Yeah. I know that we've been fairly critical so far, but like there is definitely something here. You know, like there's a good sense of humor. There is fun to be had. I just think the dice mechanics need to be trimmed up and the document needs to have an editor.
Oh no, like I said early on, like we don't pick games we don't like generally. We've done a couple we didn't like just to do them. I think it's obvious which ones those were. But like I've said, me and Hunter talked about this off stream.
Sorry.
Really like this game, and I think a 2E would hit. I just think it really needed an editor, like a dev and line editor, and it would have hit off. So now we get into combat. When facing enemies, mechas engage in combat protocols, which is played in turns, divided into 2 phases: initiative phase and fight phase. I I'm lost on why we need both those phases. Oh, cool. So there's the initiative phase. Players and enemies each roll a d6. Both factions add their results and then confront the results. The faction with the highest score begins first in the subsequent fight phase. So that means every player rolls a d6, and then all the enemies roll a d6, and then you add it all up, and then whoever gets the highest number gets to go first. That's again, it's too much fucking rolling. Like, why are we rolling? Why are we potentially?
I don't know that I dislike that though. That kind of seems fun to me. You know, like, I mean, I would only, you only do the initiative phase once, right? Fuck it, we would only do it once at my table. But like at the start of fight, everyone roll a d6. Now I am actually kind of okay with that one. It seems kind of fun to me.
No, wait. So listen. So fight phase. In this phase, the faction that had the highest initiative score fights first.
Right.
To fight, each character takes a turn in which it can move from a distance equal to its total speed and perform an attack. It says the faction with the highest initiative chooses the first character to take a turn, and then the opposing faction does the same. When the opposing faction's character has ended its turn, the faction with the highest initiative chooses another character to take a turn, and so on and so forth until combat is over. So my thing is, right, I love this. It reminds me of like Death in Space, where like
Death in Space, yeah, where you choose who goes next. I definitely thought the same thing. I do really. There is a thing going on here that I'm like, okay, I kind of dig this actually. Yes. I think this needs to be edited and reworded a little bit. But there's a fun initiative mechanic that in here, you know?
Yes. Oh, I mean, there's so much rewording across this entire thing that needs to go. The problem is that makes the initiative phase like, you don't need to have every player roll a dice, add it all up, have every enemy roll a dice, add it all up, and then decide. Just have the player, just do like one player roll a dice. 1 through 3 enemies go first, 4 through 6 bad guys go first.
Yeah,
like
I always think it's a good option. That's my default one. But like, honestly, like I would kind of like, I mean, it really, once again, it really depends on what your table's like. But like the table that I'm at right now, I know that they would be stoked on having an us versus them like roll off at first and then beginning battle. But I agree, it's more dice, and the problem is with this game, there's always so much dice. And I'm speaking from a place of like, I haven't ran this, so it maybe when I am running this, I'm like, fuck, more dice to roll. It all feel differently, but I kind of like the idea of it, you know?
Yeah, I think it's to me it feels what's the word I'm looking for? It reminds me of like the Troika stack a little bit. I hate the stack. I think it's in concept. The first time you do it, it feels really cool. And then the 10th time you do it, it's fucking obnoxious. Like,
man, I'm gonna be honest with you and all of our listeners. I've never liked the stack even in concept. So the first time I read it, I'm like, I'm not doing that. So
yeah, well, I mean, same. Like, it's still interesting conceptually, but no, it sucks. I don't want to play that way. But also, again, like, even if you play it the first time, you're like, oh, that was kind of neat. The 10th time, you have to like add all that shit up to put it into a fucking bag. It's obnoxious.
And that very well might be true. You know,
that's what I'm saying with this. Is it feels, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not kitschy. It feels like it feels gimmicky almost, where it's just like, once you do it once or twice, where you're like, all right, we've already been rolling 80,000 dice. Let's all roll. You're fighting 6 bad guys. So let's let everyone on the table plus the DM roll like 30 more dice we can add up just to decide who goes first, because then they pick a bad guy anyway. Like, it just feels like such an unnecessary action for something that like makes no difference. Like,
right. Yeah.
You know. But I do like the fight phase. I do like the idea that says the faction with the highest initiative chooses the first character, and then the opposing faction does the same. So like, basically, like, you go, then I go, then you go, then I go, but we get to pick who gets to go. I love that. I think it's really neat. It's just unnecessary. And even like the other problem with like calling it a phase is that like it feels like
it's not a phase, Mom.
Well, but to me, if there's 2 phases to combat, like, I feel like you'd be going in and out. Like, initiative isn't like a phase. Initiative is like the triggering thing that puts you into fighting. You know what I mean? Like, it's not actually part of fighting. You know what I mean? Right. It's just the thing that.
I don't know that. No, I don't know that I feel the same.
Yeah, no, I can. Yeah, so for example, like if you have, let's say you broke up people into being like people that can melee and people that can range. You would have a
Yes.
range phase and then a melee phase. They're like
Mm-hmm.
things, but initiative is just an out of table, an out of game meta mechanic to determine who goes first in combat. It's not like
Part of the combat itself.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
like
I mean, I don't really take issue with that. I get what you're saying. I don't really take issue with it though, you know?
yeah, I mean it's
I
whatever.
feel
Call it whatever you
differently than
want.
you, Ryan.
How dare you?
Yeah, that's right.
So attacking to perform an attack with a melee weapon, the attacker must be within how many feet?
Dude, it's so funny because it's just like you're in kissing distance. If you're gonna hit somebody, you gotta be close enough to lay one on them, bro.
1 foot, bro. Like then the attacker chooses the weapon, rolls all the d6 specified. If the roll to hit scores a number of successes higher or equal than the target's armor value, the attack hits. Then the attacker rolls all the d6 specified in the weapon's damage section. The resulting number is subtracted from the target's HP. Again, what fucking grid are you like? Are you
Dude,
playing on 1 foot
there is
squares?
a conversion issue going on here. They
Has to
100%
be.
do not mean 1 foot. Like they don't. I know that they don't. Like I at my table would house rule this up and fix it. But yeah, that's a pretty hysterical. I mean, all the distances are really funny. It's like you can move 6 feet.
Yeah. I mean, the
Yeah,
only way
1
any of this
foot.
makes sense at all is if you're playing on like a standard quote unquote like D&D grid, you know what I mean? But like
Right.
every square is just a foot, not 5 feet.
Right, yeah. And maybe that's how they imagine doing it. I'm just like,
yeah. Like that's the only thing that makes sense because like say like the one can move 9, so like it's like 45 feet if it's 5 foot squares.
yeah.
Completely reasonable. There
Yes,
has to
much
be it has
more-
to be within 1 square or like
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense. Because also it's like 9, 6, 7 distance. Like and you can add 1 foot to something, so now you get to go like 6 feet instead of like it's just yeah. That's the only thing that makes sense.
It is easily the funniest part about this. Like just in my head canon of watching these robots, just
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah. It's tiny. It's a tiny robot battle game. It just never says it.
Yeah, they're all range to perform an attack with a ranged weapon. The target must be visible within 40 feet of the attacker. Again, that makes sense in the context, except that your guy that can go 9. Like, no, that makes sense. Yeah. Then the attacker chooses the weapon, rolls all the d6, blah, blah, blah. If it hits, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's the same thing. Movement. They can move a number of feet equal to their speed value. Again, there has to be some type of something
absolutely.
that's off. If the character wishes to move even more, it can sacrifice its attack action and perform another movement. So you can double move by not attacking. Fine.
Right.
Free actions. You get to do stuff. Throwing ammo to a friend, talking, picking up an object, repenting for crimes against Mekkas. I like that. I like that it's like, use a thing, who cares, whatever. I hate when people are like, create like, oh, can I pull this thing off my belt into like the action economy? Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
Just
who
don't do, like,
cares?
a million
Yeah,
fucking things. Yeah.
yeah. I feel like it's like that's so tedious when that is a rule. It's like, oh, you want to throw ammo to your buddy? That's gonna be an action. And it's like, just let me fucking do the thing. Who cares? So yeah, shout out that.
I mean, again, mechanically, there's a lot of things that I really dig where there's hands-off
Totally.
parts that make so much sense, and then just the whole, and then there's just a couple things. This is what we were saying before. It's just like this is one of those games that's almost like frustrating that like I really, really want to like it really bad, but there's just some things that like I would, if in order to run this in a way that I would like to run it, I'd have to do so much work, and I'd rather the creator would have just done that.
I think a 2E would be a blast. If they trimmed it up a little bit and reworded it, and like maybe their like intention 100% is to have like 14 dice rolling. Like that might work for other tables. Like that's not me and my table, which is why we don't run Shadowrun. But like whatever, if that's what you mean. But I think there's a lot of other stuff to clean up here too. But there's a cool time here,
Yep, I completely agree. Dying. When you reach 0, you die. That's it. HP is the thing.
Love it.
Well, when enemies reach 0. When a mecha reaches 0, it is shut down. If the mecha is not damaged beyond repair, as in like literally destroying his body in a volcano or whatever. They can spend 18 hours performing a reboot and repair, and they come back to life with maximum HP. So, like,
cool.
It might have some damage memories. Ask the GM. I like that. Again, really love a lot of the hands-off shit. Regaining HP during a fight. You can spend your entire turn to consume an oil flask and get 1d6 HP. Love it. Like,
hilarious. Great. So funny, dude. Just like Bender on Futurama chugging oil.
Yeah, so good. Regaining HP outside of a fight, which is just resting. When mechs find a peaceful spot outside of combat, they can enter rest mode. I like rest mode, but I wish it would have just been like sleep mode, since that's what computers use as sleep, but it doesn't make a difference, sure. Whatever. Yeah. In this mode, they regain lost HP by rolling a number of d6s equal to the level plus their HP modifier. Fine. To enter rest mode, they spend at least... So it says to enter rest mode, mechas must spend at least hours still in a peaceful environment. Doesn't say how many, it just says hours. I assume that's a miss. Like, there should have been a number there. While in rest mode, mechas can replenish their ammo by rolling ammo dice and adding their ammo modifier. So rest works like every other fucking dice game. You get to roll some d6s, maybe add some modifiers. So there is a little graphic here that says, like, what can you do in your turn? And it's like 3 boxes. There is 1 movement, which is maximum of your speed value. There's 1 attack, right? Which is 1 attack with a weapon arm or weapon in prehensile form. If 2 prehensile arms hold 2 weapons, you can perform 2 attacks. So you can just dual wield at base. Love that. And free action, speaking, throwing ammo or objects to a friendly mecha, picking up an object. I will say there are, like, what can you do on your turn? It says your maximum is your speed value. I would have thrown in here too that little blurb where it says you can sacrifice an attack to take another movement. I would add that into the square here, because that is technically, like, you can do 2 movement if you sacrifice an attack. So if there's gonna be a little graphic that says like all what you can do, I would put all what you can do in there. Another cool half-page art where there's like the agile mecha holding a sword in one hand, and what I think is probably, like, I don't know, maybe the flamer, with like green flame coming out, standing over like cultists with swords and hoods and stuff. Great graphic, great piece of art. Really dig that. Leveling up. I really dig this. You have to retrieve 1,000 silver pieces, and then the whole group can level up. To level up, mechas have to finish a rest mode, and then 1 mecha will transform into the deliverer, sending a rocket with all 1,000 pieces back to the processor mothership.
So funny. Like, genuinely, like, such a funny moment in game for you to have.
Yeah. After sending the silver, the mechas gain 1 level and the following benefits. 1 HP die. You get plus 1 HP die, which raises your HP total. Mm-hmm. You get plus 2 to a characteristic every time you level. So with our guy already at rolling 11 dice, for our flamer, now we're rolling 13. Or plus 1 to 2 different characteristics, and then you get 100 silver to spend as you please, even on other accessories, arms, or upgrades.
Oh, cool.
So you send 1,000. My thought is you send 1,000 silver up, and I would actually have them like choose their, because there's upgrades and stuff they can get, but I would have them basically like punch in what they want, send the silver up, and then the mothership drops something back down, and you open it up and you pull out your upgrades and shit.
Absolutely.
And then you got like a little silver. Like, that's how exactly I would play it.
Dude, and then there is like a fun, like,
yes,
once again, like hijinksy, like robots in fantasy land game here, and in outside of like the crunch, in kind of like the more the hands-off mechanics and like explanations, it's like that's where it really shines. But I still do. I think I said this before we started streaming, but it does really remind me of that one page Highland Paranormal Society mech game where it's just like you pick a Dungeons and Dragons adventure and your mech's in it. Like, that's what I do with this. I'd be like, you're gonna play through Lost Mines of Phandelver with this system,
Yep. That'd be so dope. I mean, there is like an inlaid
dragon
world in
eyes
here, right? Oh my god, like using robots to fight like fucking beholders and shit would just crack me up. So upgrades, you can get armor cement, internal reinforcements, hydraulic tuning, compartment, data retrieval, telemetry, 0-point rifling. Like the compartment, it costs 65 silver for the upgrade, And you gain +5 max ammo capacity. But that's the other thing too, is like you get 100 silver to spend as you please. That's each mech, so you're really only sending 700 silver up, basically. Yeah. But I really like that. +5 max ammo capacity would be huge.
Yeah.
Internal reinforcements, you gain +4 max hit points, +1 armor is insane. Zero scope rifling gives you 1 more damage dice, so you just start jacking up your ammo dice. So I mean, I assume 1,000 silver. I mean, we'll get to it. There's a whole section here about GMing, which we really don't need to go over. It basically is, this is how to GM. You're gonna run enemies and shit. That's it. There's a little explanation of the stat block for bad guys, which and it actually is like has dashes and everything in the different numbers, which is nice.
It is weirdly like easier to go through that part with the bolded numbers, but like it's funny how it's like labeled and then there's like 1 dash instead of it just being another wall, you know?
Yeah, and not like the how to play section. So basically, bad guys get a name like cultist, armor, HP, speed, the amount of silver you get when you loot them, the number that could be in each encounter. So, for example, the cultist could be 2d6 per encounter, and then it's got an attack. But it does say down here, these are the attacked enemies disposable. Even if the enemy has more than 1 attack, it can always perform only 1 attack per turn. Weird way to word that. But again, I think there's a language thing throughout this entire thing that needs to be redone. But pretty straightforward. That's it. And then there's a whole bestiary here. Some of the ones, this is where we talk about some of the stuff that's interesting. So alchemist, assassin, bear. Because of course you're going to run. It's the fucking medieval times. Of course you're going to run into a bear. I love that. Cultist brute, cult leader, gargoyle, giant slug.
You know, robots versus gargoyles,
right? knight brute, nobleman, shaman, soldier, squire, thief, thug, vanquisher, salamander. I love this shit. It's great. But here's the thing, right? So we already talked about it, that bad guys, like if you want to hit something, you have to hit a number of successes equal to the armor score, right? So a lot of them are 2, 3, 4. Knight and Knight Brute are 8 and 10, right? And it says specifically on Knight Brute that you could run into 3 of these.
Oh, right? Gosh.
Yeah, Knight, which is 8 armor, you could run into up to 6 of them. So the problem is, do me a solid and roll 20d6.
I don't want to.
Just hit 20.
20d6. 20? God.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
All right. And now how many are 4 plus?
God, why? I don't want to do all that. 1, 2. Also, I'm using Google's Dice Roller, which I believe rolls too high sometimes. And I think it did. Wow, I mean, it's almost all 1, 2. It's easy to count the ones that don't actually. So of all the dice I rolled, only 4 didn't make.
Okay, so I just rolled 20d6 and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 8. So I miss with 20d6. I would hit the knight. I would miss the Knight Brute rolling 20 d6s.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, because I've done some math for like dice pool mechanics, obviously, and my range was a little bit smaller because it was 5, 6 instead of 4, 5, and 6. But like getting 10 takes quite a bit. Like the difficulty hitting like 8 with a dice pool of like 12 was essentially impossible, you know. But once again, that window is a little bit more narrow, and what I was doing math for. But yeah, it is.
Well, it's just crazy. So I just rolled another 20 d6s, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 10 exactly. So that's what I'm saying is like,
again, I got 7.
That's what I'm saying. So in order
And
to fight one of these guys, right, we're rolling 20 d6s, which is not out of the realm of possibility. Like if you're
right.
rolling the flamer, right, and you started with 6, you start with 6 in dex, right?
Mhm.
That means by level 8, 10, 12, by level 4 or 5, you're rolling 20 dice. And that's if you didn't add a bunch of upgrades every time you leveled up. So you could be rolling by like level 4 or 5, you could be rolling like 25 dice. But my point is, if you're fighting this Knight Brute, it's how many do you actually need to fight it? And I'm saying we're missing with 20 d6s.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing, like, it kind of goes back to that issue. The dice pools in this are too big, and you really lose like a grasp of the like probability of hitting when you get in these bigger and bigger. Because like dice, the more you add to a pool, like genuinely, the less meaningful like it becomes. Like it's such a slight increase, and like when you're just increasing a flat number like 5 to 10, well, that's only like double. But like when we're talking about statistically hitting a dice pool 5 to 10, it's exponentially more difficult.
Yeah.
It's not just twice as hard. It's way harder.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think this is it's just a symptom of the same thing. It just needs smaller numbers all around.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad. Like I fucking love when it's like, yeah, difficulties 1, 2, or 3 or whatever. You know, I think that's great. Very easy to keep a hold on. And I think for a game like this, where it's really not about like this long-term campaign-esque power growth, you know, this is much more of like an old school-esque kind of, or NSR kind of thing where you don't need big numbers because you shouldn't be aiming to get in big stuff happening. It should be this kind of a one-shot or short adventure game, you know?
Well, I mean, to me, the craziest thing is like I'm rolling potentially. I mean, like I said right here, like I'm missing like what is one of the, if not the highest bad guy in the game, the Knight Brute, right? Currently in this bestiary, I'm missing 2 out of 3 times with 20 d6s. But here's the thing, like I could roll 20 d6s, hit, and then roll 2d6 dice for damage. Like it just there's a disconnect in the core dice pool, like you said, where the numbers just become so ridiculous and meaningless. Like I have a ton of dice, and I feel like I might. I was gonna say I would struggle to find 20 d6s. I wouldn't, but like most people would. Like, and I'm just one person.
So I'm thinking now about this dice pool, and you know, if you're trying to hit 10 with 20, and this dice pool is really just a 50-50 because it's 4 and up is hit. I've been thinking because obviously, like I've just that's 5 and up is hit, and so the math is worse. So this one's really like if you have 20 dice and you're rolling, I don't know, I need to double check the math. But if you're rolling 20 dice, you have a 50% chance of hitting, right?
I mean, you would think, but I bet you math says no. I bet you there's some weird, like...
I mean, the actuality of the thing.
But that's my point, is that in order to fight the Knight Brute, when there's 3 of them, even if that is the case, where, like, yes, you average... That means you need at least 20 dice to average hitting this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Every other time you swing-ish. Yeah.
Which is just... I mean, again, like, the dice pools are... They get so massive so quickly. Because, like I said,
I found a dice calculator.
Yeah, but again, like we said, I think it's fine. I just think the numbers should all across the board should be halved, like completely halved. Because here's the thing: is once you're rolling 20 dice, what does a +1 dice upgrade really? I mean,
it really is so. It's very, very small. You know.
Mm-hmm. Like you're needing like 5 or 10 at a time to statistically change anything. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying is like I don't have a problem with this system. I like it. I think it's great. I just think the numbers could literally everything could just be reduced in half.
Yeah, I agree. I think that,
and it would be fine. Like it's not hard. It's
doing like reflecting on the math, like we've been talking about it being basically they're all coin tosses. It's just several coin tosses, you know.
Yeah.
I do like that. I like what's going on here. I like the kind of vibe of the adventure. But yeah, all the math cut in half would be great.
Yeah. I mean, I really think
hardest enemies 5 to hit, but
yeah.
then really it's like you don't need to be rolling 14 dice. I mean, I just don't want to,
Well, that's the other thing too, is if everyone does decide to bring the amount of dice that they need, right?
Right.
You could have 4 or 5 players at the table. That means you have like 80 to 100 D6s around one table.
It'd be really, that's actually more than I have D6s right now for my own current D6 dice pool game that I run.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So anyway, so we're still in the GM section. Mission design. I do like some of the stuff around here. I mean, it is pretty. I mean, this is definitely one of those like this might be your first game kind of things, because a lot of the GM design, it's so. I mean, it's extraordinarily basic stuff. Like have a hook, build around your players. Don't forget that fun. Like okay, we get all that. I do like the little D6 hook pool they have here just to start stuff. Free a Mekka hostage, plan a new base, bring the Mekka hunter to Mekka justice. Again, I really like all that stuff.
Fucking so funny. There's great humor in this. There's great fluff in this,
That's what I say. The bones of this are so fucking good. And I think with some solid tweaks, not even changes, tweaks, this is so dope. So getting it, so this is another part where like obviously, so I believe that the creator is Italian, Novecento Manfredi. I could be wrong. I apologize for that. I feel like maybe there's a little bit of a language barrier issue here too, which I think an editor would really help with, because the way that a lot of the lore parts are written, there's just some things. I mean, also like the roll check in the how to play, but you never see the words roll check ever. I don't know if they just like forgot to pick one and didn't go delete on the first page or not, but you never see roll check ever again anywhere.
That's so true. Like, we haven't seen it since the first.
Yeah, so maybe they decided to go
dexterity roll check, please.
Yeah. So, so the medieval world of Mekkakonkrete, it's an interesting little setting. It's got some really clever little parts to it. I think a lot of this needs to just be completely reworked into like just a couple paragraphs, not split up like this. So Mekkakonkrete takes place in a world called Latra, where technology is basically medieval times. Anything they can't figure out, they call magic, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly the Mekkas and the processor mothership just show up and drop on the earth, or drop onto Latra. And Mekkas see humans as savages and stuff. So society is superstitious in most regions. Religion's a thing, just medieval times. So this influence often blooms into outright bigotry and hatred against what is different from your baseline humanoid creature. Not all societies are bigot or cult-minded, though. Most humans are not entirely hostile to Mekkas and will even trade with them. It's just weirdly, again, it's these are 3 different parts, but it's weirdly broken up. Like also like we get to a religion section that basically just like repeats a lot of, because this is basically talking about folklore, bigotry, religion. It's just weird to have it like written this way. Then there's a whole, and also like it's got like a bolded separate paragraph for each section, but like the how to play didn't have that part. It talks about politics. Again, before the arrival of the processor mothership, there were kingdoms and stuff, but now warlords have like most kingdoms focus on war against the Mekkas. Economy changed because of Latra. It raised the worldwide economy because like Mekkas are constantly looking for silver, oil, and iron. So basically the whole world just started like focusing on those, but also now there's like robot like technology, so it accelerated, basically gave them like a technological boost, and now they're like golems and alchemical shit.
I dig that though. That's
dope.
That's very my speed, like that's very much I love a good science fantasy, but yeah, this section with the moment they were like, oh yeah, the pursuit of silver and oil has like, I'm like, and iron, I'm like, oh yeah, they would cause like a crazy industrial revolution,
Again, all this is good
stuff here, man.
It's good, but like it just, all of this needs to be reworded into something that just it reads easier and makes more sense. Military, the processor mothership arrived, now like knights and plate armor and crossbows, because like they basically didn't have any of those things, and now suddenly they have like all this increased technology, and like war is a thing, so people are like becoming knights and shit. Like it's a thing, a lot of military presence. The wilderness of Latra exists, there's stuff there. The cults of Latra, this is like, it talked about cult stuff earlier, but now we're having a whole different part about cults, which is like really weirdly worded. While religion is not a big part, cults emerged. It's unclear why, but cults sprouting in different kingdoms is alarming. They range from simple living in a peaceful countryside style of cult to more dangerous and bloody cults like crime
Oh,
syndicates and stuff.
every day living in
Right?
a peaceful countryside life cult.
That's what I'm saying. Like all of this could be reworked into like 2 concise paragraphs where the flavors all condensed better. It's just written in a really weird way, laid out in a really weird way. And then there's a processor mothership, sometimes called the processor. It's the original birthplace of the Mekkas. It roams above the world of Latra. It creates 5 mechas per minute with a brief training period of a couple of months and then sends them to the planet. So that's what you guys are. That's what your players are. Nobody knows what its purpose is, or even if it's manevrated. I don't know. I think that's got to be like maybe maneuvered or something by a living being of high intelligence. What is known as a processor works nonstop, and that's it. So again, I like the innate setting. I think it's really clever. Like even like the silver bit and stuff, like the increased tech. I think there's so much good flavor in like a little mini setting that's just enough there to give you cool stuff without like you don't get kingdom names, you don't get this. You just get some vibes of different shit. I like it. It needs to be reworded. But
yeah, I do too. And like my big, I have a massive complaint. What would you say?
No, what's your massive complaint?
I have a massive complaint about a lot of other, not this game, a lot of other games where in fantasy in general, where magic exists and there's no accounting for that. Like the world's the way it would be, but magic exists, and like that would drastically change how everyone interacted with everything. It would change how your economy would. So I think it's so cool that this is like, oh yeah, there are mechs in this like classic fantasy medieval-esque setting, but just by there being mechs and the mechs being like a buying force of like needing supplies, specific supplies, there's been this boom in industrial revolution and mech technology. I'm like, oh, that's exactly what would happen. So I do really like that part.
Yeah, so many said. I mean, that's the thing is like I do like when there's like more the mud and blood where magic is super. The problem is every setting says magic is super rare, but all of you have magic.
Yeah, but all of you magic.
It's crazy, but like it
definitely because I have my own home game. I've Adepts, which is like magic super rare, but you're all wizards.
Yeah.
So I'm so guilty of that.
But like if you look at something like Full Metal Alchemist, like everything is built around that shit, so it makes sense. You know what I mean? But it's funny because
that's a great example because in the civilized world, yes, but like in like the rural pastoral areas of that world, like they never see that shit. They have to live regular life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like you're right. Like so, fuck Harry Potter and fuck J.K. Rowling. She's a turf cunt. But some point, maybe it's like Brennan Lee Mulligan or Matt Mercer or somebody on somewhere was like talking about Harry Potter and how it's just like these people have magic where they can literally teleport anywhere they fucking want and they still force owls to deliver letters.
Oh,
like it makes no fucking sense.
I think that is Brennan Lee Mulligan. So
and I love Brennan Lee Mulligan with all my heart.
Nature's slowest bird.
Yeah. Anyway, so the character sheet's great. I love it. It looks cool. It's super clean. Yeah.
It's great. It is a good. Listen, if you're listening and you want to make a character sheet, great example right here. Has personality. Doesn't go like so far into like the vibe that it's unreadable. You know.
But I do love the strength dex whiz on the side. I love all the cables.
Yeah, they're
plugged into the other things. It's so good. It's so good. I mean, here's the thing. Again, we beat this game up a little bit, but I really like it. I would play the shit out of this game. I just think that we'll go over it. Let's get these scores done and get out of here. So Mekkakonkrete, the game of mechs in a medieval world. We're doing a zine review on this. That means only 3 scores and not 5. Visuals, rule set, and vibe. Visuals are all the visuals, layout, art, all that crap. Rule set is what it sounds like, and vibes are kind of like how we feel about it, how much it feels about itself, you know, and how bad we want to play it when we close the book. So visually. And now so this is the zine one. So layout, the visual layout of it comes in as well as art. What are your thoughts?
I think yeah, I think the art's cool. It definitely does a style and does that style well. And I appreciate that. The layout is a little bit of a mess. And could use, some work for sure. But I don't know. I'm kind of sitting at a 5 for this one.
Yeah, I mean, so we talked about this before too. So the art style is not my favorite, but it's
Right.
good. Like it's well
It is
done.
good
Like
though. Yeah.
for the style that they of their art, it's well done. Proportions are good, colors great, like it's all great. It's just a little cartoony, which also is fine too, because there is a bit of like a zany.
Yeah, it
like,
is this. Absolutely. I agree. I
Yeah,
think for
I think
what
it
this is, it
fits.
fits.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm just an edgelord little piece of shit who likes dark bloody bullshit. So this is but it's good. I don't really have any problem with the art. I think there's I mean even on areas where there's so for example like the index page, there's like kind of transparent-ish like gears in the background of the pages. Like they did a really good job with that stuff. They like there's little gears around the numbers, which is really cute. I really like the way that they did like boxes for things. That's really well done. There's never a page where there's like a big empty spot. Like the bottom of page 5 has like the whole wrench piece, which is really nice next to a
Maybe
map.
I'm a 6 on this, honestly.
Yeah. The I like the Almighty Crusher. I like the arm weapons. Like the art through the whole thing is great. The layout through the whole thing is great. Again, I love the gear stuff in the background. It really breaks up the white page. Like it's really. I really think that all of that stuff is good. I don't like the font choice. I think
I really don't like the it's like almost Comic Sans.
It almost reads Comic Sans. Like that's what I was gonna say too. Like it almost reads Comic Sans. Like it's just again, if that feeds into the kind of cartoony-ish, that's fine. But like layout wise, so much of it needs to be better laid out and better separated. Like the how to play section is literally one giant blob of text, and it just layout wise I'm just torn because like for example I love the creating a character page. Like I'm just gonna bounce back to that real quick. Like I think this is great. The gears in the background, like the things in the boxes, this page looks great. Like for the style of the game, with the colors and everything, it's great. But then you roll back a page and this is the how to play section, and it's literally just one giant blob of text. Like
it's actually broken up with no spaces.
Page. It's unquestionably the worst page. Like this is the worst half page in the entire book, and it's the core rules of the entire game. So that's my issue, and that's why this is kind of difficult because like the look of it is really good, but like the like actually being able to use like even like the pre and sale arms page, great table, super readable, art on the bottom, fantastic. So it's weird. Like even if the first page was broken up, I don't know. So that's why I'm a little torn on this. I think a 6 is good because I have both positive and negative things to say, and I don't think either one really outweighs the other. It's fine. It's usable. The art is really good. It definitely a layout person could make this way better. I think 6 is generous but nice. I think that's where I'm at. That's what you said, right?
I did. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Rule set. This one's gonna be hard.
This one's gonna be hard. Because there's too many dice. I don't have an issue with the dice pool or even like the resolution math to it. You know, like I think this is all that part works fine. The numbers are too big. There's too big a numbers. So
and that's the thing is like every I like everything else. I love the buy pick and choose bits of like picking your weapon arm, picking your prehensile arm, picking your upgrade, picking your accessory. Like I'm usually not like big into like equipment lists. I don't mind like the bits and pieces of like putting your fucking mech together. Like I love that part. I think all of the bonuses you get from that stuff is really great. Like especially the upgrades where you get like +1 or like the compartment. Like all of the little bits of the mechanics I think really make a lot of sense. I like the bestiary. I like the way that they laid out like the bad guys and how it works. I even like, I mean, I don't like the initiative phase. I think that's unnecessary amount of dice in an already unnecessary amount of dice. But like I think the combat works fine. Like it's just it's too many fucking dice. Like you said.
I mean, I think like I like the initiative phase. Maybe I wouldn't in practice after a few times doing it, and I think I'd like it more with less dice and everything else. So
that's what I'm saying. Like at the end of the day, it's all you're deciding is which one of you go first because the other one goes second. There's no reason to potentially roll like 10 fucking dice to decide, okay, you go first, so you get to go second. You know what I mean? Like if there's a more complicated, or if like the amount of dice you rolled made any difference whatsoever in the fighting phase, the initiative phase needing everyone at the table to fucking roll and add all those numbers up might matter.
Yeah.
But it literally is just like either you go or I go, and it could just be a coin flip, but lets everyone plus all the bad guys roll dice. Like it's just, if there was more impact for like why you're rolling that many dice, I would say go for it. It's just unnecessary amount of time. You could just flip a fucking coin, or you could literally just say good guys always go first, and it would make no difference in the game.
So what do you think of the rule set? What's your
It's hard, dude. It's hard because like the core mechanic is just not, I do not enjoy the amount of dice that you roll, but everything else I'm totally good with and really actually really like. So it's
I'm
difficult.
going with a 5.
Yeah, I'm honestly between like a 5 and a 6. I mean, 5 to me is like, we've talked about this before, like is bang average, and we don't often give 5s because we don't really pick games we don't like, because we're not mean, we're just critical. There's a lot of stuff. I just feel like the problem that I have, and we might go with a 5 because this is like, it's a balancing scale of how much the too many dice thing is on one side, and how much I like a lot of the other like cool, fun, clean little mechanics. And not only that, like the lack of mechanics where it's like really like where they're hands off about like no descriptors of what the arms do. I fucking love that. Like, so that's my problem, is like, does the weight of how much I dislike the massive fucking dice pools outweigh? I don't think so. I think there's so much good in this. I personally, if I'm between a 5 and a 6, I'm leaning 6 on this, just because I feel like there's so many more individual bits that I like, and I feel like it'd be so easy to just cut the dice in half.
I don't think the 5 is a hill that I'm like really dying on. So I see your reasoning, and I agree, I think so.
All right. Vibes.
But pretty good. It's hard because I'm just so distracted by the rule set, which is actually part of vibes for us.
Yes.
But good. I want to play a version of this. There is a version of this that I definitely am like, oh, this would be a blast to run. Like, I think there's so much fun to be had with this idea. That I like it. I mean, personally, for me, I think the rules do drag it down quite a bit because I'm not as excited to play it. And I know that if I do run this, like, it's going to be kind of close to this, but the rules are going to be different. So I think for this, I'm probably at about a 6 for vibes. Yeah.
I think I'm between like a 6 and a 7. I mean, and it is, the problem is that it's the rules. Like if we ignored the dice pool, like mechanic, just said everything else, I would be at like an easy 7, maybe even an 8. I mean, the problem too is like the wording of the lore in the back needs to be like, I'm just annoyed, not bothered, but just like tweaked a little bit by like some of the layout parts, like the way that it's written at the end. Yeah, I'm a 6. I'm a good 6 for this.
Cool.
But here's the thing is like, this is another one of those games where I feel like if they brought in someone like a Christian Sorrell as like a dev or a line editor.
Who?
Oh, like Meat Castle Game Lair?
Oh.
Yeah.
I would wear my Meat Castle shirt, but it's been my gym shirt because it's such a great shirt. Very comfortable.
It's a great shirt. But if they brought in someone like that to really clean up the wording of the lore, to help tweak the layout, because Meat Castle, like Christian does a lot of great layout in his own games, and just like help balance the dice pool a little bit more, a Tui, a Mekkakonkrete would be sick as fuck. One of the reasons also being because, like you said, every fucking dungeon game that exists, every adventure for every dungeon game could be run with this. You would have literally an unlimited amount of adventures to run, because you could just be like, okay, exactly like you said, we're running Fendelver with Mekkakonkrete. We're running fucking literally 80 fucking dungeon delve with Mekkakonkrete, and it would totally fucking work. So yeah, I mean, I'm probably at a 6.2, and that makes me sad because I think I like it a lot more. I just think if I add up the points of how much I like stuff and then subtract the points of how much stuff bothers me, it reduces it. So yeah, that's a problem, is the balance on everything. I feel like it sucks. 6 and 6 times 3 is what, 18?
18.
what sucks about that is that number feels lower than how much I actually do like this game. I just think that it's got amazing bones, and some simple tweaks would jump a lot of these numbers from 6s up into like 7s or 8s.
I think they're exactly what you said. I have nothing to add to that. I agree.
Let's hope maybe for a Mekkakonkrete 2E. I would love to play this raw just to see how many fucking dice we use. And then I would love to play a second session where we do the same fucking thing and just reduce them in half.
It's like someone in chat, which I know you saw, but if you're listening to this, you don't see our chat, mentioned that maybe they tested this on the VTT. Maybe they play tested where the number of dice is immaterial because it does it's all virtual. Yeah. So yeah, I'd be interested to play it on the stream and like roll the dice virtually and be like, yeah, I mean, it's all on my screen. So
yeah, but I mean, just because the VTT makes the number like easier to like add up doesn't mean that like the number in itself becomes meaningless to a point. Like mathematically, the difference between 20 and 21 dice is pointless. So why have that many? You know what I mean? Like I'm not a fan of like the pointless shit. And like you get to a point in the dice where it doesn't fucking matter, but you're going to keep adding them anyway. So that's what bothers me, not the ease of use, but I completely agree with what the person in chat said. I think it's a possibility. We'll see. The thing is, if you go to the itch page once again, Novecento Novecento.itch.io, there's more adventures for this. So like clearly they looked at it and decided to write more for it. So who knows? We'll see. It's cool. I don't know if it's still available at Ratty, but there's a number of spots. If you go to the itch page, you'll be able to click that and find that. I definitely think it's a game worth snagging. It's a game that I think, again, has good bones and is super easily hackable for anyone that has any basic understanding of game design. And I think all the ideas in it are really good. So that's it. Coming up, we have some fun stuff. We're really laying back on interviews. We're really laying back on really like any kind of bonus episodes whatsoever. We're pretty much just going to get back to doing what we wanted to do a while ago, which was side quests, which is our APs of games we've reviewed. And then maybe having some of, the normal friends of the show on, people like Mekkas, people like Marco and stuff like that, if they have things coming out. And then our monthly, not cat
monthly with Jert.
Yeah, but other than that, really, really peeling back on the number of episodes we do because we got pretty burnt out on Zine Quest. So, expect kind of going back to more often than not, just maybe one AP every other week and just a regular episode. But that's it for today, Hunter. I'll see you later. And people out there, if we have stuff coming up, we'll tweet. Oh, I thank you. Look at us. We're out. Bye.
Bye.